Good morning. Welcome to the King's Report News Hour for the 26th day of the 12th month and the 16th year of Changi Timur Singh and for the second king of Changu Kyongjin. And so let's go right to our sojourn around the kingdom right now. In Chongpyeong, Tennessee, we have 25 degrees and clear. Partly sunny today, a high of 54. Another nice spring day, it looks like. Tonight, partly cloudy, low of 26. And in father's hometown, Cheongju in North Pyongan Province, Korea, 36 degrees and cloudy. Increasing cloudiness this evening, followed by late night low clouds, low of 29. Tomorrow, cloudy with a shower in places, high of 45. Whoa. For Cheongju, that is really nice. That is a very nice spring day that they have coming up tomorrow. And let's see here at the Cheonggyeong Palace in Northeast Pennsylvania. It's colder than in North Korea. 14 degrees and clear. Partly sunny today, 37 degrees, and then tonight, some clouds with intermittent snow and flurries late with little or no accumulation. Watch for slippery spots, low of 18 tonight. And then at the Liberty Rock RV Park and Campground in Limestone County, Texas, 53 and mostly cloudy. 77 today, breezy this morning, mostly cloudy and warm with a shower in the area. Tonight, cloudy. Breezy, widely separated thunder showers, low of 63. My goodness. Okay. At the Suncheon Palace in Korea, clear and 37. Low tonight at 31. With increasing cloudiness tomorrow, nice and warm with times of clouds and sun. High of 62. My stars and cars. It is spring. And then at the Gunma Palaces in Japan, 39 degrees and clear. Low of 30 degrees tonight. Tomorrow, increasing cloudiness, high at 57. Spring weather there as well. And in Guangzhou, Guangdong, China, cloudy and 73. Clear tonight and low of 59. Tomorrow, very warm, plenty of sunshine, high of 83. And so, yes, we thought winter was going to last forever. We thought spring would never come. We thought we were doomed to be in the cold forever and ever and ever. But no, spring has come once again. Praise God. All right. In Father's Word, we're in the book on the Pan-Pacific Providence, February 15th, 1990. And chapter 5. Chapter 5, section 1. Chapter 5, section 1.1. Okay. So Father says here on February 15th, 1990, so centering on the Pope in Rome and centering on the peninsular civilization, the unification of heaven and earth, or unification of all of everything under heaven is the literal translation. But I think this is basically the physical world. Unification of everything under heaven should have taken place. But in God's providence, there's always a but, isn't there? But the Pope, or the Vatican, actually, Father says, the Kyohang Chong, does not refer to a person, it refers to the organization. So the papacy, I guess, is the best way to translate it. The papacy of Rome could not fulfill its responsibility. And so the providence moved to England. All right, so we're talking about here prior to England's arise, I guess. Okay, so you know, so I guess what century are we talking about? 17th, I guess, 17th century or so. So, and this goes around and round, and it comes in through the island nation of Japan. Japan inherited the civilizational realm of England. And it's true that in when Japan began to modernize after the Meiji Restoration of 1868, it not everything, but it copied a lot from England. Its constitution was copied from Prussia, military Prussia, education system Prussia, but I would say that, sort of more culturally, though, they did copy a lot from England. And that may be one explanation of why they drive on the left today, for example. So this this period lasted from 1868 to 1988, 120 years. This was the time of Japan's sort of the height of Japan, I guess. In 1988, well, I think the no, I was in Japan at the beginning of 19 um, when did I leave? I left Japan. I left Japan in 1988, and I was writing articles for the Japanese newspaper there, the Sekai Nippo there. And I guess the Showa emperor died, I think, in early 1988, and uh, was it early 1988, or, or I guess, or sometime around. Anyways, in 1988. And I remember one of the last articles that I wrote for the Sekai Nippo was sort of tying the fortunes of Japan to the fortunes of the Japanese imperial family. And actually, I got it right. I sort of predicted that the death of the Showa emperor of 1988 would mark kind of a high watermark for Japan economically and culturally and so forth. Yeah, that actually 1989, of course, is when the lost 3 decades began for Japan, and finally now Japan is kind of beginning to crawl out of that more or less. But yeah, but Father's approaching 1988 from a different perspective. He's saying, okay, well, 120 years from 1868, 1868 being the year of the Meiji Restoration. Um, so also, and Father's also tying this to the 120 years of Saul, David, and Solomon, right? And so Father says, yeah, just like Saul, David, and Solomon was 120 years, also the three eras of Meiji, Taisho, and Showa were also 120 years. Oh, okay, it says here that Hirohito died in January of 1989. So when did I write that article then? I thought, yeah, it was January 1989 that he died. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Now I remember it. So it was exactly 120 years. And so during that time, Japan completely inherited the cultural sphere of England. Right. Okay. All right. So while we're explaining about that, and also he goes on to explain how the Industrial Revolution began in England, and also Japan inherited that. But he said this. He says that the fruits of the Industrial Revolution, though, were taken by Germany, because Germany was on the Satan side. But anyway, okay. Praise God for the word that He's given us today. Yes. So, of course, Father is very much always teaching us how God is involved in history. God is not off someplace, and after the fall of human beings at the beginning of history, He did not say, "Hey, you guys messed up. You're on your own." No, He immediately started the providence for restoration, because God has willed that there will be an earthly kingdom of heaven, earthly kingdom of heaven. A lot of Christianity gets it wrong, saying that the kingdom of heaven, God's kingdom, is only going to be spiritual. No, 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 no. God created the earth, right? So why would He forfeit the earth to Satan? Why would He say, okay, yeah, Lucifer, you got it. Yeah, you tricked me, and you outsmarted me, and you got control of the earth. So Take it away. I'm not even going to try to get it back from you for eternity. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. No, God's going to establish his kingdom on this earth. And I think Christianity has been shy about saying that because they did not want to challenge the earthly powers head on. Uh, but here in the Unification Church, we challenge the earthly powers head on. Okay. Yes, yes, yes. We, with love. All right. with love. Yes, with love. But God is not going to forfeit this earth to Lucifer forever. And this is what the whole thing about the New Jerusalem in Book of Revelation, um, New Jerusalem coming down from heaven. That is, in other words, God's kingdom being established on the earth. On the earth. What did Jesus say? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Where? On Mars, Jupiter, Saturn? No, on earth. On earth as it is in heaven. So it's kind of it's contradictory that Christians pray that way. Pray that way. Of course, they pray the Lord's Prayer all the time. And then turn around and say that, oh, God's kingdom is just, Jesus said that his kingdom is not of this earth, that not of this world, and so it's just going to be a spiritual. No. Jesus said that to Pontius Pilate because when he said this world, he was referring to the world under Satan's dominion. Of course, his kingdom is not going to be a part of Satan's dominion, but there's a new world coming, a new world. Same planet, all right, same planet, same mantle and lava and oceans and rivers and everything like that, but different people. Or at least, we can say different people, yes, because everyone's going to be reborn. Yeah. So praise God for Father's message that really makes it very clear that God's kingdom is coming on this earth. Okay. All righty then, let's see what is going on. Yeah. So Japan has seized a Chinese vessel that was fishing in its exclusive economic zone. And, added to everything else, perhaps this will sort of be another log on the fire that is already burning there between the two countries. We will see. So anyway, the captain of the Chinese vessel has been arrested for allegedly defying orders to stop for inspection at sea. When I first saw this, I thought, okay, maybe this was in the area of the Senkaku Islands, it's disputed territory. But no, it's not. This is actually off of the port of Nagasaki, well within Japan's undisputed exclusive economic zone. And this happened on Thursday, so this happened yesterday. Japan's fisheries agency vessel Hakuo Maru left. This is the fisheries agency vessel, and the Chinese fishing vessel Chongdong-yu 11998 in waters off Nagasaki Prefecture, Japan on Thursday. Okay, and we're getting this from Al Jazeera. It's also on BBC and New York Times, but we'll take it from Al Jazeera right now. Japanese authorities have seized a Chinese fishing vessel and arrested the captain for allegedly defying an order to stop for inspection by fisheries authorities in Japan's exclusive maritime economic zone, officials said. While Japan has seized fishing vessels from South Korea and Taiwan in recent years, the incident is the first involving a Chinese vessel since 2022. So what is that, first time in about 4 years, and could inflame tensions between Tokyo and Beijing following a bitter diplomatic dispute between the two countries late last year. So, we already have something going on between the two countries, with Takaichi, the Prime Minister of Japan, saying that an emergency for Taiwan would be an emergency for Japan. It could be a existential threat to Japan. sort of implying, but not saying outright, but implying that Japan would become involved in a conflict between China and Taiwan. And then sort of other stuff going on as well. And now this. So another log on the fire. Japan's fisheries agency said on Friday that the boat's captain, a 47-year-old Chinese national, was arrested and accused of trying to evade an on-board inspection in waters off Japan's southwest Nagasaki prefecture on Thursday. 165 kilometers southwest of Mayashima Island, the Kyodo news agency reports. So they get 200 nautical miles, I think, from their coast, and so this is well within Japan's exclusive economic zone. The vessel's captain was ordered to stop for an inspection by a fisheries inspector, but the vessel failed to comply and fled, the agency said in a statement. Consequently, the vessel's captain was arrested on the same day. There were a further 10 people on board at the time, the agency added. Japan's broadcaster NHK said the vessel was capable of catching a large quantity of fish, such as mackerel and horse mackerel. The agency suspects the boat may have entered Japan's exclusive economic zone to conduct illicit fishing. It is not disclosed whether the captain admitted to the allegation, saying it might influence the investigation, NHK reports. And China's Maritime Ministry of Foreign Affairs did not immediately respond to a request for comment on Friday from the Reuters news agency. China has a number of territorial disputes with Japan, and there have been repeated incidents around Japan's Senkaku Islands, which are known as the Diaoyu Islands in China. But this is different. This is completely different. This is, that's what I first suspected. Maybe it's, down there by the Senkaku Islands, but no, this is very much just, no question, open and shut case. Japan's chief cabinet secretary, Minoru Kihara, told a regular news conference on Friday that Japan will continue to take resolute action in our enforcement activities to prevent and deter illegal fishing operations by foreign vessels. In November, Japanese Prime Minister, we know all about that. Okay. Now, the irony, or shall we say the hypocrisy, is this. That China right now does not allow any seafood imports from Japan. So it says we don't want, and they say it's because of the Fukushima. The water from the Fukushima nuclear plant was released into the ocean, and so therefore Japanese seafood could be contaminated. So they're saying, no, we don't want any sea from Japan, but then their fishing boat comes into Japanese waters to fish there. The irony of it, and the hypocrisy of it. Oh my goodness, yes, this is the world we live in. This is from November 19th. Japanese government sources say Japan has informed Tokyo that it has taken steps that effectively suspend imports of marine products from Japan. China reportedly explained that the move was needed to assess the monitoring of treated and diluted water from the damaged Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. But the decision could be part of its response to Japanese Prime Minister Takaichi Sana's remarks about a possible Taiwan emergency. These people, the hypocrisy of it, yes. So yeah, they say we don't want any Japanese seafood. It's all contaminated. Yes, our people are going to die if they eat it. And then they go in and fish in Japanese waters. Okay, all right. Also, regarding China, did I just kill that? Oh yeah. Okay, here we go. Here it is. Okay. China, and I think I've known this, maybe you've known it as well, that the Waldorf Astoria Hotel has been owned by a Chinese company. I don't know how long right now, but anyway, for a while. Japan in the 1980s was doing something similar. a Japanese company owned the Rockefeller Center, for example, and I think in Hawaii they owned, of course, a lot of stuff in Hollywood and so forth and so on. But then later on, Japan had to sell those properties at a loss, and now it looks like China is having to do this something similar. Um, Now the Chinese owners of the Waldorf Astoria are having to sell that. And says here that they bought it for $1 billion. Okay. They bought it for $1 billion. And then they had to, so here, so Hotel Hilton Worldwide, which has a 100-year management contract for the hotel, sold the property in 2014 to Anbang Insurance Group, a reinsurance firm based in China, for about $2 billion, 1.95 billion, right? Making it one of the most expensive hotel sales ever. And in the group, the insurance group, the Chinese group, spent an additional $2 billion on construction and bringing the total to more than $4 billion was the cost, all right? And then, the Chinese state-run Dajia Insurance Group was later appointed to manage Anbang's assets after its CEO was prosecuted for economic crimes. All right, so it happens if you get too rich in China, you get prosecuted for economic crimes. The seller doesn't expect to get all its costs back on a sale. So that's a nice way of saying that they're going to lose money. Okay. With an expected $1 billion plus price tag. So basically their cost basis, if you will, is $4 billion or more than $4 billion, it says here, total more than $4 billion. But uh, they're they're gonna sell it, like for a quarter of that, $1 billion plus. All right, well, it's okay. I don't know how much, I don't know how big the plus is, but it looks like they're gonna sell it for like a 75% loss. It looks to me. Now we don't have the actual figures, but yeah. So anyway, Hilton is continuing to manage it. They don't own the building anymore, but they're continuing to manage it. So right, so and this is what happened to Japan. In the 1980s, they were going great guns and looked like. You remember the song? What is it? I'm becoming Japanese. That was a big hit, right, in the United States. Becoming Japanese or turning Japanese or something like that. Just and there was this whole thing about Japanese culture and the Japanese way of doing business is so much better than the American way of doing business, and how American companies are so focused on the quarterly results, but Japanese they take a long view and Japanese and the 21st century is going to be the century of Japan. Remember that? Remember that? Yes. Didn't work out that way, did it? No. No, it didn't work out that way. But that was what people were saying, even in the 1980s. And so now we see that China is kind of going the same course. I think that's what I see. That we see a lot of course, the real estate market in Japan and China has collapsed and is continuing to collapse. And just not just the real estate market, but other aspects of China's economy as well are having a lot of trouble. China is having to sell its U.S. Treasury debt, not as a way to punish the United States or try to defeat the United States, but because they need the money. They need the money. They need the money to support their own economy. And they reduced their holdings from a high of about 1.3 billion now to something less than 700 billion. They're almost down to about half of what they once owned, and they're continuing to reduce their holdings of U.S. Treasuries. But the overall U.S. Treasury market is absorbing all that, as we saw. Other countries are taking up the slack, and the overall foreign holding of U.S. Treasuries is actually increasing year to year, about 7%, I think, last year. So China, in many ways, it looks like to be on a decline. Right? They keep saying, no, 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 no. Our GDP is growing by 5% a year. Pants on fire. Our GDP is growing about 5% a year. I don't think so. I don't think so. And I don't think anybody really thinks so. Least of all, Chinese leaders. Okay. Anyway, so we have now Chinese selling the or trying to sell the Waldorf Astoria. We'll see who buys it. Okay. Oh my goodness, yes, yes, yes. Actually, it was the Japanese company Mitsubishi Estate took control of the Rockefeller Center in late 1989. It capped a decade of go-go acquisition of U.S. trophy assets, Firestone Tire and Rubber, Columbia Pictures, and Plum Real Estate by Japanese corporations, right? But then buying that in 1989 was probably a big mistake because it was just a few weeks later that Japan entered its doldrums. Okay, all righty then. Okay, let's see. Let's see here. Let's Politico has a story about China that looks like it might be interesting. I haven't read it yet, but let's take a look. Europe's China shock worsens as trade deficit widens. The EU's trade deficit in goods with China grew to 359 billion euros last year, new figures show. Okay. Chinese goods continue to flood into European Union as the bloc's manufacturing base struggles to cope. So China's in trouble, but Europe is in bigger trouble than that. And so the EU's trade deficit in goods with China widened in 2025, up nearly a fifth from 2024, according to data published by Eurostat on Friday. Okay, this was published today, okay. The figure is the total value of all goods imported from China minus the goods exported to the country. Well, yeah, so part of the problem may be that the demand in China is down. That could be part of the problem. The widening deficit was the driving was the well, there's something wrong with that sentence. Was driven, okay, I think let's edit it a little bit for them, was driven both by a 6.3% increase in imports and 6.5% decline in EU exports to China. See there, yeah. So demand in China is part of the problem. Demand in China is going down because they don't have any money in China to buy stuff. The widening deficit exposes Europe's inability to compete in industries ranging from basic chemicals to cars. Okay. So Politico is taking a negative view on this. They're saying it's EU's problem, but I think it may also be China's problem. And look at this. Politico says China has been on an inexorable economic ascent since joining the World Trade Organization in 2001. Neither the 2008 financial crisis nor the recent deflation of a vast real estate bubble has been enough to knock it off course. Political, come on. What are you guys talking about? No. Yeah. I think I think Politico is really mouthing Chinese propaganda on this one. Okay. All right, enough of that. Okay. All right, let's look at President Trump. Okay. He's going to unveil Gaza reconstruction plan. Yes, he is a real estate developer after all. He will announce a multi-billion-dollar reconstruction plan for Gaza and detailed plans for a UN-authorized stabilization force for the Palestinian enclave at the first formal meeting of his Board of Peace next week, two senior U.S. officials said on Thursday. Delegations from at least 20 countries, including many heads of state, are expected to attend the meeting in Washington, D.C., which Trump will chair on February 19th. That is going to be on Thursday. The officials told Reuters on condition of anonymity. The details on Trump's plans for the first meeting of his Board of Peace for Gaza have not been previously reported. He signed documents in Davos on January 23rd, establishing the Board of Peace. And the board's creation was endorsed by a United Nations Security Council resolution as part of Trump's Gaza plan, which means that both Russia and China are okay with this. Of course, because the Security Council would not have endorsed this without Russia and China at least abstaining, if not voting for it. While regional Middle East powers, including Turkey, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, as well as major emerging nations such as Indonesia, have joined the board, global powers and traditional Western U.S. allies have been more cautious. And I don't blame them. Now, I think they're waiting to see what this is going to be. As I am also waiting to see what this is going to be. Some people are suspicious that he's trying to replace the United Nations. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea at all. But he's also invited China. So if he's going to replace the United Nations, he should keep China out of it. And he should say that only Christian nations can be a part of it. But anyway, that would also exclude Egypt and Saudi Arabia and others. So maybe that would be difficult. But that was Father's vision for the original United Nations after World War II, that only Christian nations could join. Keep out communist countries, keep out Muslim countries, and so forth. Keep out Buddhist countries and so forth. So Netanyahu said on Wednesday during his visit to Washington that Israel has joined the board. Trump has stirred concerns that the Board of Peace might try to resolve other conflicts around the world and compete with the United Nations. Well, that's not much of a competition, is it? I mean, how many conflicts has the United Nations resolved recently? And by recently, I mean last 50 years. U.S. officials said the meeting next week will focus solely on Gaza. They said a central part of the meeting will be Trump's announcement of a multi-billion-dollar fund for Gaza, which will include monetary contributions from participating board members. One official called the offers generous and said that the United States had not made any explicit requests for donations. By the way, the United States, I think, actually owes the United Nations something like $4 billion right now. And it's not just Trump, but for a long time, long time, decades, the United States has not been paying its full dues to the United Nations. And right now, I read recently that it's something about $4 billion. So that money could go here, right? And I think that would be a good way to spend that money. People have come to us offering, the official said. The president will make announcements vis-a-vis the money raised. Deployment of the International Stabilization Force is a key part of the next phase of Trump's Gaza plan announced in September. Under the first phase, a fragile ceasefire in the 2-year-old war began on October 10th, and Hamas has released hostages while Israel has freed detained Palestinians. Well, detained Palestinians meaning, well, quite frankly, terrorists. But Trump will announce that several countries plan to provide several thousand troops to the stabilization force that is expected to deploy in Gaza in the months ahead, the officials said. A primary concern for now is disarming Hamas fighters who have been reluctant to give up their weapons. Yeah, because that's where they get their power from. Under Trump's Gaza plan, Hamas members who commit to peaceful coexistence and to decommission their weapons will be given amnesty. Members of Hamas who wish to leave Gaza will be provided safe passage to receiving countries under the plan. The Board of Peace, whoops, what happened here? Where was I? The Board of Peace meetings will also include detailed reports on the work of the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza, which was established to take over the day-to-day civil administration of the Gaza Strip from Hamas. The committee announced its members and held its first meeting in January. Other updates will cover humanitarian aid for Gaza as well as the Gaza police, the officials said. Well, okay, we'll watch and see what happens there. because well, I think a lot of people trying to figure out what Trump is trying to do with this, and I'm one of those trying to figure out what he's trying to do with this. We'll see, we'll see, we'll see. Okay. All righty then, let's see. Oh yeah, okay, this is I guess another China story. This is one about Taiwan. Okay, just want to make sure that you're looking at this. Okay. U.S. lawmakers warn Taiwan to meet the moment as China stages invasion-style drills. So those drills, are still going on. And this is published 15 hours ago. Okay. All right, let's get this up. It's already at 150K. A bipartisan group of senior U.S. lawmakers is urging Taiwan to dramatically boost its defense spending. And right now, as you know, probably if you've been watching King's Report, there's a defense spending bill that the Taiwan government has submitted to the Taiwan legislature, but the opposition party, the Kuomintang party, is reluctant, or actually refusing to pass it because they say it might anger Beijing. It might hurt their feelings. And Kuomintang is the party that is saying, well, let's not do anything rash here. Let's get along, go along, very curious situation because it was actually the Kuomintang that fought the civil war against the Chinese Communist Party during the 30s and 40s and lost and was kicked out of the mainland to Taiwan. And now they're trying to, yeah, they're not all that bad. It's very curious. Warning that political gridlock in Taipei risks undermining deterrence as China escalates military pressure around the island. Senator Pete Ricketts and a whole bunch of people sent a letter of 34 lawmakers Thursday to leaders of Taiwan's legislative yuan, expressing serious concerns that a proposed special defense budget could be only partially funded. We hope you will support a robust multi-year special defense budget that adequately meets the moment and sends a clear signal to Taiwan of Taiwan's will to defend itself, the lawmakers wrote. The warning comes as Taiwan's president pushes for a major multi-year defense package aimed at strengthening the island's asymmetric warfare capabilities, including missiles, air defense systems, drones, and reserve force training, designed to make any Chinese invasion or blockade far more costly. But the proposal has become entangled in a fierce domestic political battle. Opposition parties that control Taiwan's legislature have resisted fully approving the special defense budget, arguing for revisions and greater oversight. The standoff has fueled concern in Washington that delays could weaken Taiwan's readiness at a time when Beijing is intensifying military operations near the island. The People's Liberation Army has concluded multiple large-scale exercises around Taiwan in recent months, including drills simulating encirclement and blockade operations. Chinese aircraft routinely cross the median line of the Taiwan Strait and enters Taiwan's air defense identification zone, while Chinese vessels have increased activity in surrounding waters. Chinese President Xi Jinping has repeatedly refused to rule out the use of force to bring Taiwan under Beijing's control. The threat posed by the People's Republic of China against Taiwan has never been greater. And that's true. I think that's not an exaggeration. The U.S. well, maybe back in the 50s, but it's been a long time, yeah. U.S. lawmakers wrote, citing growing military pressure and coercive actions designed to undermine Taiwan's will to resist. The letter also acknowledges mounting frustration in Washington over delays in U.S. weapons deliveries to Taiwan, noting that the United States must address its own massive backlog of approved arms sales. Okay. The budget debate in Taipei now carries outsized geopolitical weight. Supporters of the president's proposal argue that failing to fund the full package could send the wrong signal to Beijing about Taiwan's resolve. Critics counter that defense spending must be carefully scrutinized and balanced against domestic priorities. As China continues high-profile military drills around the island, U.S. lawmakers are making clear they believe the moment demands urgency. Both the United States and Taiwan must do more to deter PRC aggression. the letter states. Whether Taiwan's divided legislature ultimately delivers the funding President Lai is seeking could shape not only cross-strait tensions, but Washington's confidence on the island's long-term defense posture. Now, I was looking at this Polymarket. It's sort of I think it's kind of a game, actually. But they make they let people place bets on all sorts of things. And let's see here. Here's one on the whether China will invade Taiwan. And let's see here. What is GTA 6? There's a 52% chance that China will invade Taiwan, according to this bet. And people are able to bet, all right? And what is GTA 6? Grand Theft Auto? Upcoming action adventure game. I see. When is it going to be released? If we're going to be, okay. Upcoming. All right, well, I guess it's not very serious. Okay. Okay. All right, anyway, so people are able to bet on whether or not China is going to invade Taiwan and that kind of thing. So you can place your bets if you want. All right, let's see here. Let's go to Breitbart, see what's going on there. Okay, Josh Hawley calls for indictment of Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison over alleged ties to Somali fraudsters. Okay, well, all right. The back and forth in Washington. Oh, you know what? Switzerland is going to vote to limit their population to 10 million. Let's go to dw.com here. It's a German place, but it's in English. Interesting, right? Switzerland to vote on capping population at 10 million. A proposal by anti-immigration Swiss People's Party has gained enough signatures to head to a referendum this June. But lawmakers and business groups argue the move could cause economic chaos. But you can understand. Switzerland's really got it great. I mean, they've got some fantastic scenery, right? And of course, ski slopes and of course, a lot of mountains to be climbed and some very nice towns and cities and stuff like that. And you can imagine that it could easily get overwhelmed. So I could see why some people there would want to say, okay, let's draw a line. And I don't know if 10 million is the right place, but okay, well, these people are saying, let's draw a line at 10 million. And this says no to 10 million Switzerland. And I see. So no to 10 million Switzerland is supporting the initiative to limit the population to, I guess, less than 999,999, I guess. Yeah. Switzerland is home to around 9.1 million people today. People from abroad, mostly from European Union countries, are believed to be around 30% of the population. The proposal seeks to change Switzerland's constitution so that if the population, including both Swiss citizens and foreign nationals with residency papers, reaches 9.5 million before 2050, the government must take steps to limit population growth. These steps would include changes regarding asylum rights, family reunification, and residency permit issuance. The Swiss government would also seek to renegotiate international agreements that drive population growth. So while other countries are worried about population decline, Switzerland apparently is, or some people in Switzerland are worried about getting too crowded. And if the 10 million threshold is crossed, authorities would be required to take all available measures to comply with the population limit, including terminating Switzerland's free movement agreement with the EU. And right now, looks like 48% of respondents were in favor or inclined to be in favor, 41% against it, and 11% undecided, according to a November poll. However, the move is opposed by the Switzerland's collective head of state, known as the Federal Council, as well as most political parties and business associations. They argue that without migration, Switzerland would face labor shortages in healthcare, public transport, hospitality, and construction. I was in Switzerland, last year, right? Last year, I think, springtime. And I took an Uber from a railroad station to the venue where the king was speaking. And I think on the way back to the railroad station, I think the driver was Middle Eastern, I believe. Anyway, it looked to be Middle Eastern. So those jobs, I guess, are the type that sort of people like that, people from immigrants, in other words, when I say people like that, immigrants could take up in Switzerland. The Business Association has even called the proposal the Chaos Initiative. Our country will continue to depend on labor migration in the future, the group said in a joint paper with the Swiss Employers Association, predicting that without foreign workers, companies would relocate abroad. Switzerland holds referendums 4 times a year. Okay. Well, anyway, it's interesting because there is a sort of a global discussion going on right now about population, both ways. Of course, the U.S. crackdown on illegal immigrants is part of that. Now Switzerland wants to limit not just illegal, but also legal immigrants. And I guess they're already cracking down on illegal immigrants, since that doesn't seem to be mentioned. All right. Let's see here. What else is on Google News right now? Oh, this poor lady, and this is, I'm sorry, I really feel for the family and all, but come on. I mean, this is not the most important story in the world right now, okay? Come on. This is not the most important story in the world, or even in the United States. Oh my, all right. And Jeffrey Epstein, also, this is being dragged out. Epstein just let it all hang out, and then prosecute the people who can be prosecuted, and let's get that story over with as well. Okay. Here's what the smart people are saying about China's push to cut holdings of U.S. Treasury debt. Donald Trump's disapproval rating breaks new record. Let's look at Rasmussen. I think actually he's been on an upturn recently. Yeah, look, he's back up to 46. His disapproval, it broke a record, but then it improved after breaking a record. So it was up to 47, but now it's back down to 43. So right now, in the last couple of days, he's been improving. But yeah, he took a pretty deep dive there, didn't he, for a couple of days. I hope he can get back up to where he was here. Yeah, but he's, I don't think he's so concerned about polls. Maybe other people in the Republican Party are, because if things go as they are now, as I said, the base case is that the Republicans are going to do quite poorly in the midterm elections coming up, in November, and they're going to lose the House. And Hakeem Jeffries is going to become the Speaker of the House, and all the committees will be headed by Democrats, and the political culture in the United States is going to change very, very drastically, unfortunately. All right, let's see here. Okay. The cartel drone. Oh yeah, so the airspace above El Paso, Texas, was closed for a while because of cartel drones operated by the cartel. And apparently that's been resolved, but that's that looks like it's going to be a growing problem. And the law in favor of voter ID, the idea that you have to show that you are a U.S. citizen in order to vote in a U.S. election, was passed, but only one Democrat voted in favor of it. Got to wonder why, right? Got to wonder why. Okay. And so there's still a whole thing over illegal immigrants is going back and forth. And it looks like the Department of Homeland Security and the Customs and Border Protection is not going to get any money for a while because that part of the government is going to shut down. What is it? I think this coming Friday or something like that, or is it next week? Anyway, very soon, and that's going to affect the whole situation. Uh, yeah, here, let's take a look at this. Homeland Security shutdown nears after funding bill stalls. Right. So when is it going to shut down? Amid partisan gridlock over federal immigration enforcement, the Senate on February 12th failed to advance a funding bill for the Department of Homeland Security, virtually guaranteeing a shutdown of the agency that oversees critical services such as airport security and disaster relief that Americans rely on. The impasse marked an escalation of the Democrats' negotiating tactics with congressional Republicans and White House officials who've been in sensitive talks over reforming the 9/11 era cabinet agency since the killing of a second Minnesotan, 37-year-old nurse Alex Preddy by federal agents in January. The lapsed funding for the agency will impact the Transportation Security Administration. Those are the people who check everybody at the airport, Coast Guard and Federal Emergency Management Agency, among other divisions, where services will be reduced and many workers will stay on the job without pay. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, which Congress gave a surplus of funding last year, will continue operating. The head of the Coast Guard warned lawmakers during a February 11 congressional hearing that the agency would have to suspend all missions except ones that are critical for national security and the protection of life and property. Shutdowns cripple morale. Our aviation survival technician deploying from a helicopter into treacherous seas should not have to worry if their family can buy groceries this week. Okay, so when is the shutdown occurring? I don't see that. Probably everybody knows except for me, but I don't pay too much attention to these because it's basically political theater. I'm sure they'll work it out. Right. Okay, I'm sure they'll work it out. Okay. That's part of Washington's political theater. And then, let's see here. Okay, well, let's go to the big times. See what they're doing. Lawmakers depart Washington as DHS stands on verge of shutdown. And then China's annual military meeting reveals unusual absence of top generals amid ongoing purge. No full generals appeared at the Beijing gathering, highlighting ongoing purges and strain within the CCP's military leadership. This is interesting. Okay. When Chinese state media aired footage from the February 5 Capitol Military Political Symposium, only 7 lieutenant generals and 13 major generals were in attendance, with no full generals present. For analysts of Chinese Communist Party elite politics, the absence was striking and potentially revealing. Compared to previous years when at least one full general attended the high-profile gathering, the 2026 lineup suggests that the CCP's ongoing purge of senior military leaders may have hollowed out the upper ranks of the People's Liberation Army, leaving what some observers describe as a power vacuum at the top. The contrast with previous years is sharp. Okay, well, we'll see how this works out. Yeah, basically, it's reading the tea leaves, which is what people used to do with the Soviet Union. They used to look at who would stand on the Kremlin wall during major sort of anniversaries and celebrations, and sort of the order of people standing on the Kremlin wall, and that was. And so also now they're having to read these tea leaves basically, and there are all sorts of rumors going around. The military is split. Xi Jinping is not doing well. His health is declining. All sorts of rumors. And we really don't know what to believe. And so until we know for sure, I think it's best to just continue to pray that God's will be done. God knows. He knows. He knows exactly. He knows the number of hairs on my head and on the head of Xi Jinping as well. So he knows exactly what's going on, and he's working his will. And True Father is working his will in China. And so let's continue to pray that their will be done, God's will be done, Father's will be done, which is the same, of course. Yes. Praise God, praise God, praise God. Yes, praise God. All right, I think that's about all for today. Let's see if there's anything exciting here. Wave of elite investigation signals political tightening in Beijing ahead of key events. Okay. All right. We'll see. Okay. All right. So that's about it for today. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you tomorrow. God bless, Godspeed. May His kingdom come quickly.